My name is Bella. I am 22 years old. This is not a happy story, but I must tell it. A year ago, my life was simple. It was happy. I lived with my father and my younger sister, Lily, in a small, warm house. Our house was always filled with the smell of my father's cooking and Lily's laughter. My father owned a small construction company. He built houses for people. He was a good man. He worked hard. He was honest. I worked part-time in a flower shop. I loved being around the bright colors and the sweet smells. Life was not rich, but it was full of love. Then everything changed. A shadow fell over our happy life. A big, powerful man named Mr. Carter came to our town. He owned a huge company, Carter Enterprises. He built big, shiny buildings. He was like a king, and our small town was his new kingdom. He wanted to build a large shopping mall. To do this, he needed to buy many small businesses. My father's company was one of them. My father said no. He loved his company. It was his dream. He built it from nothing. He did not want to sell it to a man like Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter was known to be a cold man, a ruthless man. He did not care about people. He only cared about money and power. My father tried to fight. He tried to keep his business. But Mr. Carter was too powerful. He was like a giant wave, and my father's company was a small boat. Mr. Carter found ways to make my father's business fail. He took his clients. He blocked his supplies. Soon, my father was in debt. A lot of debt. The happy sounds in our house disappeared. There was no more laughter, only worried whispers. My father stopped eating. He grew thin. Dark circles appeared under his eyes. He looked like a ghost. The bank called every day. They said we would lose our house, our home, the place where my mother planted the big oak tree in the garden before she passed away. My heart was full of hate for Mr. Carter. I hated his name. I hated his big, shiny buildings. I hated him for taking the smile from my father's face. He was my enemy. He was the man who ruined my family. We were losing everything. My sister, Lily, needed medicine for her asthma, and we couldn't afford it anymore. I felt so helpless, so desperate. I knew I had to do something. I decided to go see Mr. Carter, to beg him, to ask him for mercy. My father told me not to go. He is a monster, Bella, he said. Stay away from him. But I didn't listen. I had to try. His office was on the top floor of the tallest building in the city. The room was huge. One wall was all glass. You could see the whole city from there. It was beautiful, but it felt cold, like him. He was sitting behind a big, dark desk. He was not old, maybe 35. He was dressed in a perfect, expensive suit. He had dark hair and serious, gray eyes. His eyes were like stones, cold and hard. He did not smile when I walked in. He just watched me. My hands were shaking. My voice was small. Mr. Carter, I said, I am Bella Rossi. My father is Antonio Rossi. He just nodded slowly. He knew who I was. Of course, he knew. You are destroying him, I said, my voice getting a little stronger. You are destroying my family. Please, I am begging you. Give him more time. We will pay the debt. Just stop. He stood up and walked to the big window. He looked down at the city, his city. Time will not fix your father's problems, he said. His voice was deep and calm. It was the calm of a storm. The debt is too large. Tears started to fall from my eyes. Then we will lose everything, I whispered. He was silent for a long time. I thought he was going to tell me to leave. But then he turned around. He looked at me with his cold, gray eyes. I can help you, he said. A small bit of hope flickered in my chest. Really? Yes, he said. I will cancel all of your father's debt. I will give him back his company. I will make sure your sister has the best medical care. You will never have to worry about money again. It sounded too good to be true. My heart started to beat faster. What do you want in return? I asked. I knew there was a price. A man like him did nothing for free. He walked closer to me. He stood right in front of me. I had to look up to see his face. I want you, he said. I didn't understand. What do you mean? I want you to be my wife, he said. The words were simple, but they felt like a cage closing around me. You will marry me. That is my price. I stared at him. I felt sick. Marry him. Marry the man I hated. The man who ruined my father. No, I said. Never. He did not look angry. He just looked certain. Then your family will be on the street tomorrow, he said calmly. Your father's health will get worse. Your sister will not have her medicine. The choice is yours, Bella. I stood there frozen. I thought of my father's sad eyes. I thought of Lily struggling to breathe. He was right. The choice was mine. But it was not a choice. It was a sacrifice. I had to save them. My life for theirs. Okay, I whispered. The word felt like poison in my mouth. I will marry you. He just nodded. Good, he said. He turned and went back to his desk. My assistant will handle the details. He didn't look at me again. I was just a business deal, a contract. The wedding was a week later. It was not a real wedding. There was no white dress, no flowers, no friends or family, just me, him, and a judge in a small, cold room. He put a heavy diamond ring on my finger. It felt cold, like his hand. I did not say I do. I just whispered yes. After that, I was no longer Bella Rossi. I was Mrs. Carter. I had married my enemy. He took me to his house. It was not a house. It was a mansion. It was on a hill, looking over the city. It was made of glass and stone. It was beautiful, like a museum. But it was also silent. So silent. There was no life here, no warmth, just expensive furniture and empty rooms. This was my new home, my new prison. He showed me to my room. This is your room, he said. Not our room, my room. It was huge. It had a big bed and a balcony with a beautiful view. But I felt so small and alone in it. There are rules, he said, his voice hard. You will be a respectful wife in public. You will attend events with me. You will not embarrass me. In this house, you can do what you want, as long as you do not bother me. He left me there, in that big, cold room. I sat on the edge of the bed and I cried. I had saved my family. They were safe now. My father had his company back. Lily had her medicine. But I was trapped. I had sold my soul to the devil. And I had to live with him now. Life with Mr. Carter, I had to call him Alistair now, was empty. We lived in the same house, but we were like two ghosts. We ate breakfast at opposite ends of a very long table. We never spoke. He would read the newspaper. I would stare at my plate. He left for work early. He came home late. Some nights, he didn't come home at all. I was alone in that giant, silent house. I had everything money could buy. Beautiful clothes I didn't want to wear. Expensive food I didn't want to eat. A beautiful garden I didn't want to walk in. All I wanted was my small, warm house. I wanted my father's bad jokes. I wanted to hear Lily's laughter. Alistair made me go to fancy parties with him. I had to wear beautiful dresses and smile. I had to pretend to be the happy, loving wife of the powerful Alistair Carter. It was torture. The people at these parties were like him. Their smiles were fake. Their words were empty. They looked at me with curious eyes. They whispered about me. The poor girl who married the rich man. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know I hated him. I remember one party. A woman with a sharp face came up to me. "You are very lucky," she said, "to catch a man like Alistair." I just smiled my fake smile. "I am," I said. Later that night, Alistair heard another man talking to me. The man was just being friendly. But Alistair's eyes became cold. He walked over. He put his hand on my back. His grip was hard. "My wife is tired," he said to the man. He pulled me away. When we got home, he was angry. "I told you not to embarrass me," he said. His voice was low and dangerous. "I was just talking to him," I said, my voice shaking. "Do not play games with me, Bella," he said. "You belong to me now, remember that." He turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the huge, dark entrance hall. I felt so scared, so small. This was not a marriage. This was ownership. I missed my family so much. I was allowed to visit them once a week. Those visits were my only sunshine. I would drive to my old house. The house was safe now. My father looked better. He was working again. Lily was healthy and happy. They were so happy to see me. But their smiles were also sad. They knew I was not happy. "How is he, Bella?" my father would ask quietly. "Is he good to you?" I always lied. "He is fine, Papa," I would say. "He is busy, but he is good." I didn't want them to worry. I made this choice. I had to live with it. I would hug Lily so tight. I never wanted to let her go. Driving back to the cold mansion always felt like returning to my cage. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. I lived in a beautiful prison. I had no friends. I had no purpose. One day, I found a small, neglected greenhouse at the back of the huge garden. It was full of dust and dead plants. I decided to clean it. It felt good to work with my hands, to touch the soil. It reminded me of my job at the flower shop. I bought seeds. I started to plant flowers, bright, colorful flowers, zinnias and marigolds and simple daisies. It became my secret place, my only place of happiness in that big, cold world. One evening, Alistair came home early. He found me in the greenhouse. I was covered in dirt. I thought he would be angry. He looked at the rows of small, green plants. He didn't say anything. He just stood there for a long time. His face was unreadable. Then he just turned and walked away. I was confused, but he didn't tell me to stop. So I kept going. My small greenhouse started to fill with color. It was the only warm place in the entire mansion. Slowly, I started to see small cracks in his cold wall. Very small things. I noticed he never talked about his family. There were no pictures of his parents in the house. The house was big, but it felt like only one person lived there. It was lonely. One day, I was in the library. It was a huge room filled with books. I found a book of poetry. Inside, there was a handwritten note. For my Alistair, never forget the stars. Love, Mom. The handwriting was beautiful. I wondered about his mother. Where was she? Another time, I woke up in the middle of the night from a bad dream. I walked out of my room. His door was open just a little. I heard a small sound. I looked inside. He was asleep in a big chair. His face, in sleep, looked different. It looked younger and sad. He looked so lonely. For the first time, I didn't feel hate. I felt a small, strange pang of something else. Maybe pity. The biggest change happened one rainy afternoon. I was driving back from my family's house. I was emotional. I wasn't paying attention. Another car came out of nowhere. It hit my car. It wasn't a bad accident. I was okay, just shaken. But I was scared. The other driver started yelling at me. He was a big, angry man. Suddenly, another car pulled up. A black, expensive car. Alistair got out. I had never seen him look like that. His face was white with fear. He didn't even look at the other driver. He came straight to me. "Bella, are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was not cold. It was full of worry. He touched my arm gently. "I'm okay," I whispered. He looked so relieved. Then he turned to the other driver. His face became hard and cold again. "You will deal with my lawyer," he said. His voice was pure ice. The man suddenly looked very scared. Alistair took me home. He made the housekeeper bring me tea. He stayed with me for an hour. He didn't say much, but he stayed. That night, I thought about the look on his face, the look of fear. Maybe he didn't just see me as a possession. Maybe, deep down, he cared. This small thought started to change things in my mind. The hate was still there. I could never forget what he did to my father, but it was not the only feeling anymore. There was confusion and curiosity. Who was this man, really? I decided to be brave. I had to know the truth. One evening, he was working late in his office at home. I knocked on the door. "Come in," he said, without looking up. I walked in. I stood in front of his big desk, just like the first day I met him. "Alistair," I said. My voice was steady. "I need to ask you something." He finally looked up. He looked surprised to see me there. "What is it?" "Why?" I asked. "Why did you do it? I know you are a powerful businessman. But what you did to my father, it was personal. It was cruel. And why did you marry me?" He looked at me for a long, silent moment. I thought he would get angry. I thought he would tell me to leave. But he didn't. He leaned back in his chair. He looked tired, so very tired. "Sit down, Bella," he said softly. I sat down. My heart was pounding. "My father," he began, his voice low. He also had a small construction company. Many years ago, he had a business partner, a man he trusted like a brother. That man was your father, Antonio Rossi." I gasped. "No, that's not possible." "It is," he said. "They built the company together. But my father was the dreamer. Your father was the practical one. My father trusted him with everything. But your father betrayed him. He stole money. He made bad deals behind my father's back. He ruined the company. And he ruined my father. My father lost everything. He lost his will to live. He died a year later from a broken heart. Tears were in his eyes. Real tears. In the cold, gray eyes of Alistair Carter. I was 16 years old," he continued. "My mother and I had nothing. I promised myself that day I would become stronger, more powerful. And one day, I would get revenge for my father. I would do to Antonio Rossi what he did to my father." I was speechless. My father, a good, honest man. Could he have done such a terrible thing? "And me," I whispered. "Why marry me?" He looked at me. His eyes were full of a deep, old sadness. "When I saw you, you looked so much like your mother. She was a kind woman. My mother loved her. When I saw you, fighting for your family, you were so brave, so loyal. Everything I wanted in my life and never had. My revenge felt empty. I had all this power, all this money, and I was completely alone. I thought maybe having you would make the silence go away." I left his office that night with my world turned upside down. I didn't know what to believe. I loved my father, but I saw the pain in Alistair's eyes. It was real. The next day, I talked to my father. I asked him about Alistair's father. My father's face grew pale. He started to cry. And he told me the truth. It was all true. He was young. He was scared. He made a terrible mistake. He had lived with the guilt his whole life. My feelings were a storm. I was hurt by my father's lie. I was sad for the boy Alistair was, the boy who lost everything. The hate I felt for him, it melted away. It was replaced by a deep, complicated sadness. For him, for me, for our broken families. I went back to Alistair. I found him in the garden, standing near my little greenhouse. He was looking at my colorful, simple flowers. "My father told me everything," I said quietly. He just nodded. He didn't look at me. "I am so sorry, Alistair," I said, and I meant it. What he did was wrong. But what you did, you continued the story of pain. You hurt my family. You trapped me. "I know," he whispered. "And I am sorry, Bella." He finally looked at me. His gray eyes were not cold anymore. They were just sad. "This marriage was a mistake. It was a selfish act. You are free to go. I will give you a divorce. I will make sure you and your family are taken care of. You can have your old life back." I looked at him. The powerful Mr. Carter. The man I hated. He was just a man. A lonely, broken man, just like me. I thought about leaving. I could go back to my old life. But my old life was gone. I was different now. He was different now. "What will you do?" I asked. "I will stay here," he said. "In my big, empty house." I looked at the house. And then I looked at my small, warm greenhouse, full of life. "No one should be that alone," I said softly. Maybe we can stop the story of pain. Maybe we can start a new one." Our story did not become a fairy tale. Love did not appear overnight, but something else did. Understanding. Forgiveness. We started to talk. Really talk. I told him about my dream of owning a small flower shop with a cafe. He listened. One day, he showed me a small, empty shop in a nice part of the town. "It's yours," he said, "if you want it." I started my shop. It was my own. My father helped me build the shelves. Lily helped me choose the colors. It was full of life, just like my greenhouse. Alistair would visit sometimes. He would sit quietly in a corner and drink coffee. He would watch me. And sometimes he would smile. A real smile. Our house, the big mansion, slowly started to feel less cold. I brought flowers in from the greenhouse. I convinced him to get a dog. A happy, silly golden retriever. The silence was filled with the sound of barking, and sometimes our laughter. We still ate at the long table, but we sat closer now. I married my enemy. I married the man I hated. I did it to save my family. It was the hardest thing I ever did. But life is strange. Sometimes, the thing that looks like a prison can become a door. My marriage started with hate and revenge. But we are building something new now. Something quiet. Something slow. Something based on forgiveness. It is not a perfect story, but it is our story. If you are listening, and you are in a dark place, please know that stories can change. People can change. Hate is a heavy burden to carry. Forgiveness is much lighter. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to be scared, but be brave. Ask questions. Seek the truth. And never forget that even in the coldest garden, you can plant a flower. You can find warmth. You can do this too. Keep going.